Hi there. We are going through the New Testament in the order that the events actually happened. And today we are reading Luke 14 and 15. We're at that part of the story. Okay, we can look at our thing here. He sent the 72 men out a couple days ago. And yesterday this theme was, don't worry, be ready. So, and today it's 14 and 15. He's beginning his parables. These are all parables. So, okay. Healing of the man on the Sabbath. One Sabbath, when he went to dine in the house of a ruler of the Pharisees, they were watching him carefully. And behold, there was a man there before him who had dropsy. And Jesus responded to the lawyers and Pharisees, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath or not? But they remained silent. Then he took him and healed him and sent him away. And he said to them, Which of you, having a son or an ox that has fallen to a well on a Sabbath day, will not immediately pull him out? And they cannot reply to these things, right? That's called hypocrisy, right? Okay, parable of the wedding feast. So this is interesting. This is highlighted from another study, and I'll show you why. Now he told the parable of those who were invited. When you notice how they chose places of honor, saying to them, When you are invited by someone to a wedding feast, do not sit down in a place of honor, lest someone more distinguished than you be invited by him. And he who invited you both will come to say to you, Give your place to this person, and then will begin with shame to take it to the lower place, or lowest place. When you are invited, go and sit in the lowest place, so that when your host comes and say to you, Friend, move up higher, then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at the table with you. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and everyone who humbles himself will be exalted. Okay? Now we know Jesus. We know Solomon was the wisest man who ever lived. Right? Was Jesus wiser? No. Jesus was wisdom personified. Okay? He was wisdom. Okay, it's hard to grasp that. It said Paul talks about that later, but he was wisdom. Now let's show me here. This is Proverbs 25. Okay, Proverbs of Solomon. And 6 and 7. Do not put yourself forward in the king's presence, or stand in the place of the great, for it is better to be told, Come up here, than to be put lower in the presence of a noble. Right? And you can take a lot of Jesus' Proverbs and see where he got the inspiration of his parables from Proverbs, and why not, from the wisest man who ever lived, right? You are wisdom. Jesus was wisdom itself, okay? And it talks all over Proverbs about wisdom, okay? When it talks about wisdom, right, it says wisdom was there in the beginning when all things were made, okay? Jesus was wisdom. Okay? Just an interesting side note there. Okay, the parable of the great banquet. He also said to the man who invited him, When you give a dinner or a banquet, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or rich neighbors, lest they also invite you in return, and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. When one of those who reclined at the table with him heard these things, he said to him, Blessed is everyone who will eat bread in the kingdom of God. But he said to him, A man once gave a great banquet and invited many. And at the time for the banquet, he sent his servant to say to those who had been invited, Come, everything is now ready. But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said to him, I have bought a field and I must go out and see it. Please have me excused. Another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen and I must go examine them. Please have me excused. And the other said, I married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. So the servant came and reported these things to his master. The master of the house became angry and said to his servant, Go out quickly to the streets and the lanes of the city and bring the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame. And the servant said, Sir, what you commanded has been done, and still there is room. And the master said to the servant, Go out to the highways and hedges and compel people to come in that my house be filled. For I tell you, none of those men who were invited shall taste my banquet. The cost of discipleship. Now great crowds accompanied him, and he turned and said to them, If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father or mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it will begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build, but was not able to finish. Or what king going out to encounter another king in war will not sit down first and deliberate whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him, comes against him with 20,000? And if not, while the other is yet far off, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. That's giving up everything, your own life, right? The price should be your life. Salt without taste. Salt is good, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is of no use for either for the soil or for the manure pile. It is thrown away. He who has ears, let him hear. All right, here's 14. Now let's do 15. More parables. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to him, and the Pharisees and the scribes grumbling, saying, This man receives sinners and eats with them. He told this parable. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he has lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in the open country and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and his neighbors, saying to them, Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost. Just so, I tell you, there will be many more in heaven over one sinner who repents than over the 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. All right. Have you ever felt that? Right? The drug addicts and the Satan worshipers who come to know Jesus get a lot of attention, right? The ones that were lost. Okay. I was saved when I was 5. Okay. I spent my whole life following the Lord. You know, I liken myself more to the prodigal son's brother, who was always there and never left. You know, when his father said, Everything I have is yours. Right? This man was dead, and now he's alive, and we must rejoice. Right? That's something you got to put up with. Right. Okay. Another interesting story about this parable, the shepherds, if they had one lamb that was always wandering off, and they always had to find him, always wandering off, never could stay, they would actually break one of the sheep's legs so they couldn't walk. Okay, and then the shepherd would they would bind up the leg and they would put the sheep around their shoulders and carry them on their shoulders. When you saw them carried on their shoulders, and they would stay there until the sheep was healed. Okay, and once he was healed, he would stick by the shepherd. Okay? Just interesting side note you learn in the years studying. Hey, the parable of the lost coin. Or what woman, having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp and sweep the house and seek diligently until she finds it? And when she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I lost. Just so, I tell you, there is joy before the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Parable of the prodigal son. Here we go. We're just talking about this. And he said, there was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of the property that is coming to me. And he divided his property between them. Right? That means one son got one, and the other son got the rest. Okay? He already had everything his father is his. Right? Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his field to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. Okay? And he arose and came to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion for him and ran. Okay, right? And ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But his father said to his servants, Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to celebrate. Okay, this part where he says, and this would have been a aha moment when he was telling a story, where he says the father felt compassion and ran and embraced him. Okay, and there was a song written, God ran, oh, God ran. Okay, these kind of people that owned property, that were that were well off and respected members and elders, did not run. They never ran anywhere. They walked and were noble about everything. So it says when he ran to meet his son. That's something that just didn't happen. And that's a very important part of it, where he says he ran. Okay, just a little note there. Okay. Now his older son, some of us will feel like this. Now his oldest son was in the field. As he came, he drew near to the house. He heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, Your brother has come, and your brother has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound. But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him, but he answered his father, Look, these many years I have served you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fattened calf for him. And he said to him, Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and now is found. Right. Right. And that's a... Right, that's important right there. You are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. Okay? So, and there you go. That's 14 and 15. That's today's reading. Lots of cool stuff in the parables, And I think most of the parables you could probably find inspiration in Solomon's Proverbs. So, there you go. So we will mark that as done. Just little notes to keep us on time. So there you have it. That's day 27. Lots of stuff. And at some point we will go in and tear apart all of Jesus' parables, because that's fun. That'll be fun. And we'll do that as a study at some point. But catch up on any you may have missed and give us a like if you think about it. And tomorrow we'll do it again. See ya.